As a constitutional law attorney, former senior legal advisor and personal counsel to President Donald J. Trump, Jenna Ellis believes in the rule of law and the importance of integrity in our elections. And she's ready to tackle the big cultural and legal issues facing America. This is the Jenna Ellis Show. Here is your host, Jenna Ellis.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Jenna Ellis Show. I'm Jenna Ellis, and there are so many questions that I have that I know you have as well. What's going on in Congress between the potential government shutdown, the continuing resolution, the possible defunding of the DOJ, which leads into the questioning of Attorney General Merrick Garland in front of the House Judiciary Committee yesterday, asking about whether traditional Catholics are domestic extremists. He couldn't even answer that question, and how all of this goes into the impeachment inquiry of Joe Biden. So I had the opportunity to sit down with two members of the House Judiciary Committee, Chip Roy and also Tiffany, to answer all of these questions. So they will join me right after this. With inflation, the banking world collapse, and everything that Joe Biden is doing not to protect America, you need to make sure to secure your financial health, especially in retirement. And hey, if you're a millennial like me, that actually is sooner than you think. You need to start now, even if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer, to make sure that your financial health is actually healthy when we get to retirement. And Legacy Precious Metals has a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in gold and silver online in real time. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped right to your door. You'll have access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar, and this puts you in complete control of your money. The platform is free to sign up for. Visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and against a volatile stock market. A truly diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but different asset classes. This brand new platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Visit legacypm.com to get started. You can download the free investor's guide, and you can also call Legacy PM Investments to talk to a portfolio expert to get expert answers to to customize your personal portfolio. So visit legacypminvestments.com to get started. Tell them that Jenna sent you. Good morning. And the government shutdown is looming. And Representative Chip Roy, our good friend from Texas, posted a thread on X, formerly known as Twitter, saying that in 12 days funding expires. The question is what we demand to fund it. My position is that we must seek substantive wins on, among other things, the border, DOD wokeness, DOJ weaponization, and spending cuts to support funding. Hashtag no security, no funding. And then he goes on to explain, but we have Representative Chip Roy with us this morning. Good morning, sir. And, there's been a lot of back and forth from different GOP representatives on what exactly a continuing resolution should or shouldn't contain. So what's going on and what should we know about it?
Well, good morning, Jenna. Great to be on the show. Appreciate you and appreciate what you do for this country and for standing strong.
Thank you.
Look, we're in the middle of a debate about what to do now. About 10 days from the end of the quarter, and that's when government funding will lapse. I've been a part of shutdowns before. I have no problem with going into shutdowns. I think that it's actually a good tool to try to force change, try to extract change out of the executive branch using the power of the purse. I've not been quiet about that. I think we've set up the ability for us to try to leverage and get change. But there's a point at which we have reached a tactical disagreement in the conservative flank of the Republican conference, in which my belief was we have to find a way to work together to give some cover to the more moderate members of our conference and, frankly, ourselves to go to war if we're going to head into a shutdown, where we create a message in which we're cutting spending It's not a CR. That's actually a misnomer. It's extending government funding, yes, at an 8% cut to non-defense, non-veteran spending. Think about that. Never done that in the history of the country. And on top of it, a hardcore border security bill that would be massive advancement in terms of our border law. We've never done that either. So that was my position, okay? Call me crazy. Call me, a sellout rhino. That was my position. Unfortunately, we didn't get agreement on that. We had agreement across the conference, but we had a handful of my colleagues who broke. So now we don't have that as a vehicle to message and browbeat Chuck Schumer, browbeat Democrats for not securing our border and making that the central fight of a shutdown. So now what I think is going to occur, Jenna, and I may be wrong, we're not sure yet, is that we very well may end up with some of our moderates, small group, cutting a deal to keep government funded at roughly current levels, and likely maybe with some emergency funding and maybe even some Ukraine funding. And that's what we end up with, at least into December, rather than being able to stand on a ground and fight to advance to get some of our conservative priorities and or border security. That's the position we're in. I'm sitting in a room right now. Well, not right at this minute. I was till about 10 o'clock last night. I'm heading in about 30 minutes to a room in the Capitol to see if we can come to some consensus on a top line number. Stuff we should have been doing in July and August. I mean, I've told the speaker, I think that was a mistake, that we're up against the wall. But some of us are trying to see if we can find a place to come together to land the plane. But just one last point. Everyone out there in the conservative movement, quote unquote, a lot of those folks are my friends, and they're saying a lot of the right things and trying to figure this out. There's a lot of people out there in the Twitter sphere, which, frankly isn't real, who are taking a lot of shots. And just, so they know, doesn't make a difference to me. I've got a job to do, and the people out there taking shots, basically they can kiss my rear end.
And good for you. I love that attitude, because I saw all of that on social media yesterday as well, and calling you a rhino and all this other stuff. And it's so hilarious to me that anybody who is called a rhino is at this moment in time contrary to whoever the person is calling you a rhino, their particular position. But as soon as they agree with you, then you'll be the most conservative person ever. And so the shifts and changes, and it's vague as much as they think that the Constitution is fluid. I mean, their definitions, it's almost like they use liberal leftist tactics, and I think it's ridiculous, and personally stand with you and know that you are one of the best conservatives on Capitol Hill. And in fact, Senator Mike Lee retweeted that post of mine expressing that as well, and his support for you. And I thought that was really great to see conservative colleagues on the Hill rally with you. So where is the speaker in all of this? Because, we have a very slim Republican majority, and isn't it kind of his job to whip the votes and make sure that he can actually leverage this, even though there are more moderate members?
Well, I certainly think that that's a fair characterization, and I believe the speaker needed to have previously and needs now to take a more active hand. It's not enough to say, hey, we're going to be bottom up, which I appreciate, bottom up in terms of taking in all the information. But you can't be so bottom up that you're not then at the top of the pyramid, that you're not navigating and pushing the conference through to get it done. When he is engaged earlier this year to force to get something done, we have been able to accomplish some pretty extraordinary things. H.R. 2, border security bill being a good example, a conservative National Defense Authorization Act that did a whole lot of the things I was describing about defunding abortion tourism and defunding transgender surgeries and defunding critical race theory, things like that. We've been able to get that done. And look, let me give you another example. The speaker honored his commitment to put conservatives on the Appropriations Committee, put conservatives on the Rules Committee. So we just had a Department of Defense funding bill on the floor yesterday that we Republicans did not muster the votes for. And as a result, we didn't pass it. That Department of Defense bill, it spent a little more than I would have preferred, but it was a less than 3% increase, and which is far less than what the Hawks want. Didn't have any meaningful Ukraine funding in it, no supplemental. It had a small amount, which I would rather have been out, and we had some amendments to strike it so we could have seen what happened. And unfortunately, we voted it down, which means we didn't get the changes in the riders in there passed out of the House that would have cut the funding for abortion tourism, cut the funding for transgender surgeries, cut the funding for chief diversity officers, cut the funding for critical race theory. Look, at some point, there's an old line from a country song. It might have been Billy Joe Shaver in Texas, where he said something like, "You're so heavenly minded, you're no
earthly good,
or something like that."
No earthly good.
And yeah, exactly. Thank you. And that's kind of the way I feel right now. Right, at some point, you got to kind of take a step back and get on the ride and navigate through it, and try to be willing to take a win because of the work you've previously done. And that's what I'm trying to work through with my colleagues right now.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of these heartbeat bills in, Florida,
Yep.
Iowa, Georgia, and elsewhere where, some of these pro-life advocates are saying, well, unless it's a total ban, then, that was a compromise. And I'm thinking, well, it's saving, millions of lives. That's a good start. And then you can build on that. And so what about these people who are suggesting that some of your colleagues and you on the Hill are not paying attention as much to DOJ weaponization and defunding the special counsel and some of those lines of attack?
Well, I would agree that we're not getting that done, and I would suggest that what they're going to get is the worst thing of all, which is the fully funded Department of Justice at last year's levels, as passed with the priorities and the policy riders of Nancy Pelosi. That's where we're headed. What we're trying to do is pull off of that. The proposal we put forward would have cut the Department of Justice by 8%. There is no better way to target a Department of Justice that's weaponized than to cut almost a tenth of its budget. So to say that that was missing is a lie, and it's stupid. Now, do I think we should target some of the prosecution funding? Sure, I'm for it. Do I think we should target subpoena authority? Do I think we should target the ATF and weaponization on pistol braces and universal background checks? Of course. We can't even pass a Justice Department funding appropriations bill right now because of the disagreements trying to figure out how to get a top-line spending level in some of these key provisions across the 218 in the conference. So everybody out there in the Twitterverse, which again isn't real, it's a lot of bots and a lot of pay for play. But for the people out there listening to this radio program who are on Twitter, and you want to know what the truth is a 30-day CR, it's not really a CR. It's actually a funding of an 8% cut alongside DOD funding that would have rooted out woke and weaponized stuff and secured the border. That would have been a giant step in whacking DOJ with 8%. And then we tried to use that as a leverage point to go get CGS appropriations, that is the Justice Department's appropriations bill, with all of the things that we want to go try to stop Jack Smith. But here's another thing. Everybody said, shut it down. Jack Smith won't get funded. That's a lie. You're stupid if you believe it. Jack Smith will be deemed an essential employee, just like every shutdown in the past. Prosecutors are held on. Robert Mueller was held on during the Trump shutdown. He would stay doing what he's doing. Don't be stupid. Don't listen to all of the noise out there. Understand the facts. Some of us are trying to fight to get actual wins.
Yeah, don't be stupid. I think that is the perfect motto for everyone who is looking to divide rightly truth from error, especially on social media, is don't just believe that, you can magically do anything through a 30-day funding extension and so forth. And just in the last 2 minutes I have with you, Congressman Chip Roy, and I so appreciate your time. Thank you for fighting on Capitol Hill, for being a tried and true conservative. I wanted to get quickly your reaction as well to President Trump's comments on abortion, because I know that you have been a committed pro-life advocate.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that question. Importantly, we just introduced, by the way, a bill to, get rid of the FACE Act and to repeal it, which has been abused, as you know, as a lawyer, abused in targeting pro-life activists, talking about a weaponized Department of Justice. We're going to be fighting for that. FACE Act funding is something I'd like to target if we could ever get to the appropriations bill. But President Trump, with all due respect, I know, and look, great credit for what we got out of the Supreme Court and appointing people willing to, stand up on the law and return the issue to the states. But when someone says that it was a mistake for Governor DeSantis and other similarly aligned governors to pass a heartbeat bill, you just stuck it in the eye of the entire pro-life movement. You just said that the pro-life voters and activists and people who work their whole lives in Florida and across this country, you just stuck it in their eye, saying they were wrong, that it was a mistake. And more importantly, for the baby whose life was saved because of that bill, you just minimized that life. You just said it was a mistake that we saved that life. If someone tells you things, you should believe them. If you're listening to what the former president, is saying about that, know what that means for a second term. And understand and look back at the other things you should believe, like spending $6 trillion we didn't need to spend. Like, I don't know, giving an award or a medal to Tony Fauci for all of his work in shutting down the entire economy, putting our kids in the corner of schoolrooms. How about, do you want to celebrate your VEX, warp speed and all of the mandates? He's out there saying how great it was. I never get the credit. Oh, don't worry. I'll give you the credit for shutting down the biggest economy in the history of the world. How about cutting a deal with Paul Ryan in 2018 for a terrible border bill, leaving our border wide open and exposed with no policy changes because he took the easy road? I could go on and on. We put our faith in principles, Jenna, in freedom and in the power of the American people when left unfettered by government. We do not put our faith in princes. We should do our part right now to remember that. And I know I am in the primary, and that's why I obviously support Governor DeSantis.
Well said, Congressman Chip Roy, and we do need to be principled first. And frankly, I would love to see Governor DeSantis lean into this moment and to make this his issue and say he will become the most ardent pro-life advocate and embrace that title and say that he'll do even more than President Trump in the midst of these comments, because as a principled conservative, that's what I would love to see. Let's lean into the Dobbs decision. We have an opportunity to fight for life. So thank you for everything that you are doing, and we will be praying for you, and we'll be right back with more here on Jenna Ellis in the Morning. With inflation, the banking world collapse, and everything that Joe Biden is doing not to protect America, you need to make sure to secure your financial health, especially in retirement. And hey, if you're a millennial like me, that actually is sooner than you think. You need to start now, even if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer, to make sure that your financial health is actually healthy when we get to retirement. And Legacy Precious Metals has a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in gold and silver online in real time. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped right to your door. You'll have access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar, and this puts you in complete control of your money. The platform is free to sign up for. Visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and against a volatile stock market. A truly diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but different asset classes. This brand new platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Visit legacypm.com to get started. You can download the free investor's guide, and you can also call Legacy PM Investments to talk to a portfolio expert to get expert answers to your
to customize your personal portfolio. So visit legacypminvestments.com to get started. Tell them that Jenna sent you.
Well, Attorney General Garland answered, or didn't really answer, most questions that were posed yesterday by the House Judiciary Committee about targeting Catholics and giving the Bidens preferential treatment. So according to Town Hall, testifying on Capitol Hill Wednesday in front of the House Judiciary Committee, Attorney General Merrick Garland was grilled over the FBI targeting of Catholic churches and undercover agents infiltrating mass services. When asked to explain why the DOJ was using the power of the federal government to target worshipers, Garland claimed he couldn't give a definition of a traditional Catholic. So Congressman Jeff Van Drew asked and pressed him, why is it so hard for Attorney General Garland to just say no? This is an amazing exchange. Listen to Cut 7.
Do you agree that traditional Catholics are violent extremists? Yes or no?
Let me answer what you've said in that long list of statements, and I'll be happy to answer all of those.
Attorney General, I control the time. I'm going to ask you to answer the questions I asked.
You controlled time by asking me a substantial number of things. And
I didn't ask you those things. I made a statement. Attorney General, through the chair, I ask you, do you agree that traditional Catholics are violent extremists?
I have no idea what the traditional means here.
Catholics that go to church.
May I answer your question?
Yes
or no.
The
idea that someone with my family background would discriminate against any religion is so outrageous, so absurd.
Mr. Attorney General, it was your FBI that did this. It was your FBI that was sending, and we have the memos, we have the emails, we're sending undercover agents into Catholic churches.
Both I and the director of the FBI have said that we were appalled. Have said that we were appalled by that memo.
So then you agree that they're not extremists?
We were appalled by that memo.
Are they extremists or not, Attorney General?
I think that...
Are they extremists or not, Attorney General?
Everything in that memo is
Are they
appalling.
extremists or not? I'm asking a simple question. Say no.
Why is it so hard for him to say no? So this, of course, is always the exchange back and forth. And Garland probably isn't really sure of anything, including whether or not he's a man or a woman. He wasn't asked that question, but he probably would have said, well, I'm not a biologist. But the one thing, the only thing that he was very certain of is that he's not a politician, and nothing about the DOJ is political. That's really the only thing that he absolutely said no to. So Garland was also questioned about showing favoritism toward the Biden family. Representative Mike Johnson said AG Garland was true to form today, said he couldn't recollect speaking to anyone at the FBI about Hunter Biden investigations, said the FBI whistleblowers aren't truthful. It's clear why 65% of Americans don't trust his DOJ. So also on the House Judiciary Committee is Representative Tiffany from the great state of Wisconsin, and he joins us this morning. So Representative Tiffany, this was just, I think, a frustrating exchange, and it must have been for all of you as well to just never get a straight answer, even to something as obvious as, are traditional Catholics violent extremists? That seems like a pretty simple, can a man become a woman? Just no.
Yeah, Jenna, so first of all, first chance to be on your show. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. But yeah, I mean, so why do people stonewall that are witnesses like Merrick Garland? Why do they not answer questions? Because they can't answer the question, because then they're exposed to the public. And then the public knows where they stand. Merrick Garland has a really big problem with a FBI and the Department of Justice that is, I don't believe, run by him, and they are really of an extreme ideology that have been put in these positions as career DOJ employees. Eric Holder started it back in the Obama administration, and they are in there deep, and they are advancing their ideology. Merrick Garland is just their front man.
And that's a really, I think, apt way to put it, that this is all about their extreme ideology rather than simply law enforcement. And so from the House Judiciary Committee's perspective, was there any headway that was made yesterday in terms of an overall purpose in attempting to at least get something from Merrick Garland that is useful to your legislative inquiry, or was this just an exercise in frustration?
Yeah, so I think there was some advancement, largely an exercise in frustration, Jenna, but I think there's headway made in a few ways because there was a lot of focus on David Weiss. And I touched on a little bit in my questioning where David Weiss gave this sweetheart deal or wanted to give the sweetheart deal to Hunter Biden in regards to the gun charges, tax charges, stuff like that. The judge saw through it and smelled a rat and said, hey, we're not going to take this deal. And then Merrick Garland says, this same David Weiss, who tried to cut the sweetheart deal, we're going to have him oversee as special counsel for the Biden case. And I think as the public understands that more and more, that David Weiss is not a legitimate special counsel. He's there to run out the clock. And that, I believe, we're advancing the ball slowly in that regard.
And so, Representative Tom, Tiffany, what are the next steps then? Because obviously, just even these two topics between the FBI targeting Christians and traditional Catholics, and then yet giving a sweetheart deal from the DOJ to Hunter Biden and their preferred. I mean, this shows that there are really two different tiers of justice. And so where can this go from here in terms of accountability, and how, if anything, does this factor into the upcoming impeachment inquiry?
Yeah, I think we just need to continue to expose these things for the American people. Because remember, about half the American people, Jenna, they have no idea this stuff is going on. If they get their news from the nightly news, which many people do yet, they've not been exposed to this at all. And we need to continue to give this information to the American people. Now, we're going to have expanded authorities with this now being an impeachment inquiry. We need to use those authorities appropriately to continue to roll information out. Because I got to tell you, I really do think that we've handled this appropriately in the House of Representatives over the last 3 to 4 months. Week after week, more information comes out, whether it's the 20 phone calls, the 20 shell companies, the $20 million that have been funneled to the Biden family. Information continues to come out week after week. And now we're going to have enhanced authority with the impeachment inquiry, and we can get more information to the American people. And I think you're going to see a lot more stuff come out here. And I'm very the walls are closing in around Joe Biden at this point.
And that's encouraging to hear, because I think a lot of the American people who are paying attention to things besides the nightly news and the mainstream media that, of course, wants to avoid that or run cover for Joe Biden have felt like this was slow walked a little bit, and asking why Speaker McCarthy didn't try to start that inquiry within even the first couple weeks of taking over his speakership. So from the perspective of the House Judiciary Committee in particular, how does all of this, in terms of where your focus is and where Chairman Jim Jordan's focus is, in terms of helping that broader effort of the inquiry to kind of get this going?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I get it back home. When are you guys going to do something about this? And what I say to people consistently, Jenna, is that I will not be Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi. I will not be a Democrat where it's ready, fire, aim in regards to an impeachment, where you go find the evidence after declaring that you're going to go straight to impeachment. I believe you're innocent until proven guilty in America. And that's why this steady, methodical process that we've used over the last number of months that have shown that we are to the point where we need enhanced authority, like with the impeachment inquiry, so we can get more information. I think that we are at that appropriate time. And I think it's good that we've done it in this methodical manner where multiple committees have unearthed all this evidence. I mean, let's throw out another piece of evidence. There's over 180 transactions, Jenna, that the banks in the United States of America have flagged that were questionable that came from the Biden. So that $20 million plus that they've received from actors in foreign countries, the big banks were flagging these. So you have all this evidence that's out there at this point. Now we have to find out, was this bribery? Was this something that violates the Constitution of the United States of America, and do we go to impeachment? I will not predetermine that. The evidence will take us there if it's there.
And so, in other words, you're principled. And I wish that more members of Congress on all sides were principled, and this wasn't just an exercise in politics, which we know that it was from Schiff and Pelosi and Schumer and all of the rest with the two sham impeachments of President Trump, the Russia hoax. I mean, everything that they did to try to distract from President Trump's 4 years in office was an exercise in politicking. And so for this, I think that is absolutely the right approach. And other members who have joined me on the program that are your fellow members in the Republican caucus have also said that. And I think that's important to highlight because conservatives and people who call into this show across America, when I talk to them, people are frustrated that it seems like there isn't accountability, but the process does take time. And to make sure that it is done methodically, to follow the law and the Constitution, that is incredibly important. And so in terms of going back to this hearing, in just the last 2 minutes I have with you, Representative Tiffany from the great state of Wisconsin, you also had the opportunity to ask AG Merrick Garland about the cartels in Mexico that are bringing fentanyl across the U.S. border and how Biden's open borders are a threat to the American public. And that's also a basis that I have heard from, a lot of different places that is a concern as well, that Joe Biden is being derelict in office.
Oh, clearly, it's an invasion that's happening at our border right now. You perhaps have seen the pictures, Jenna. They're bringing them by the trainloads now. There was just, I see some information released by Todd Bensman, one of the most authoritative figures out there in regards to the border. Over 1 million people were flown into the United States that are illegal immigrants over the past year. I've been saying to people, they're pole vaulting them in now. Why do you think the numbers are dropping down at the border? They were for a couple months because they were flying them in. And so it just continues apace. But in regards to the questioning of Garland yesterday, in complete denial. And he's simply a front man, no different than Mayorkas, Secretary Mayorkas, in regards to the border, where he's saying, we're putting more money into fighting fentanyl, we're going after the cartels, blah, blah, blah. What's the number one way you get control of the border? You shut it down, and they refuse to do it. Let's remain in Mexico, similar to what we had in the previous administration, and you'll be successful. They refuse. Every single Democrat, including Merrick Garland, refused to acknowledge that it's Joe Biden's fault on January 20th of 2021 when he said we are going to open the southern border. That's when the invasion began. That's when the fentanyl really began to flow, and they refuse to do anything about it. And the American people suffer as a result of that. Number one killer of young people ages 18 to 45 in America, and these people won't do anything about it. It is detestable, Jenna, what is going on.
It really is. And it is so frustrating, I think, for Americans to see that our government that is run in the executive right now by the Democrats are so derelict and are just simply flat out refusing to protect the American people, live up to their oath of office, and to uphold the U.S. Constitution. So, Representative Tiffany, really appreciate you joining me today and shining a light on the truth. So we will continue to pray for you, to pray for your fellow members across the aisle as well in Congress, so that we can continue to follow the law and the Constitution. Thank you so much for being a great advocate, not only for your state, but for all Americans in Congress.
On MyPillow's 20-year anniversary, with over 80 million MyPillows sold, Mike Lindell wants to thank each and every one of you by giving you the lowest price in history on his MyPillows. You will receive a queen-size MyPillow for only $19.98. The regular price is $69.98 and just $10 more for a king size. You'll receive deep discounts on all MyPillow products such as bed sheets, mattress toppers, pet beds, mattresses, my slippers, which I love, and so much more. This is the time to try out some of the amazing products you've had your eye on from MyPillow. So go to mypillow.com and enter promo code Jenna to receive this amazing offer on the queen size MyPillow for $19.98. You can go to mypillow.com or call 1-800-564-8475. Be sure to use the promo code Jenna. This offer comes with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. It's time to start getting the quality sleep you deserve. This offer comes with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. It's time to start getting the quality sleep you deserve. Go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Jenna.